Boom. Longhorns pick up another commitment. This one from North Crowley linebacker Jonathan Cunningham, about 6'2", 195 pounds, Jerry. Helped his team to the state semifinals last year. Unanimous first-team all-district. Also runs in the relays for his high school at times. He is long, lean, and can get to the football. What are your thoughts about Jonathan Cunningham, the latest to pledge to the Longhorns?
Well, it's interesting. He was hosted by Ty Anthony Smith on his official visit June 14th through 16th. And they have a very similar frame at the same age, 6'2", 6'2 and a quarter, 190, 195 pounds, 78, 79-inch wingspan, big hands. They can really rangy players that can run to the football, those long levers that Johnny Nansen's looking for. So I think it's on. I'm not saying he's the same level player as Ty Anthony Smith. I think Ty Anthony Smith has been asked to do more at Jasper High before he graduated, but they're very similar frames. But the one thing about Jonathan Cunningham and talking to Ray Gates, the head coach at North Crowley, is how cerebral of a player that Jonathan Cunningham is. He can call their defense. They put a lot on him. He's going to play linebacker. He may even play some nickel safety for them this year on this team, a very talented North Crowley team. So he's got football instincts, and he's got a cerebral ability that Coach Gates can put a lot on his plate, and he can go out and he knows he's going to execute. But a very high upside player. I've been a fan of him since I first saw him during the season. I think it's a really good pickup for Texas, and I think Johnny Nansen made a strong evaluation here.
You mentioned Johnny Nansen. It's true. I mean, a strong evaluation. One of the teams that we always talk about in the state of Texas that does a good job, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, is Utah. Yep. And that's one of the teams that that Cunningham chose Texas over in this regard. Also, Miami, Missouri, Arizona State, TCU offers several different ones. Kansas, I could go on and on. Where do you think he fits, Jerry, in this Texas defense? Is he a Mo Blackwell type, or is he more of a true outside linebacker? Can he get bigger than Mo is right now? What are your thoughts?
I think he's a true outside linebacker with a Mo Blackwell frame, if that makes sense. I mean, Mo Blackwell's now up to around 220, 222. I think you're going to see Jonathan Cunningham long range in that 220, 225 type of frame. But I think he's an instinctive guy. He does a lot of similar things to Leonga Lafau. He just has that flow to the football. That instinctive sees it, makes a decision, and goes as you like on tape, Bobby. I've heard you talk about it many times. He's rangy too, though. I think like Leonga Lafau, he can play in space as well. Again, Ray Gates at North Crowley, they have tons of talent. They wouldn't be playing him, tinkering with playing him at safety or nickel at times if he couldn't play in space and cover. Could open up his hips and turn and run. So I think he's very similar to Mo Blackwell's frame, but maybe more of a natural instinctive linebacker.
Yet another, we mentioned Johnny Nansen. His fingerprints have been all over Texas recruiting since he arrived on campus in January. Not only in the transfer portal, but also at the linebacking crew. Is Nansen just one of those guys you think that likes this type of linebacker that can just get up and go and have some athleticism, as well as when he hits you, they go down? Because that seems to be a little bit of the common thread of the linebackers he likes to recruit.
Yeah, he's definitely gone for longer lever players. If is that just because that's what he likes, or is that because Texas is also moving into the SEC? I think there's a combination of that, honestly. But look, the one thing about Johnny Nansen is, like a linebacker that sees it and makes a decision and goes, Johnny Nansen does the same thing in recruiting. I mean, that's the one thing we can say about Johnny Nansen. When he sees a linebacker he likes, man, he's all in and he goes after that guy. And I think the Jonathan Cunningham offer may have surprised some Texas fans early on. But look, that's a guy that Johnny Nansen at Arizona was already looking at, already recruiting. He comes through there after he's hired, goes to North Crowley. He really likes him. They send Sark and Tashard Choice by shortly after that. Sark offers him that day. Then, amongst all the national linebackers, Jonathan Cunningham stayed in the picture with Texas. I mean, you think about this, Bobby, Texas brought in 4 linebackers for official visits, and he was one of them. That says a lot about what Johnny Nansen's thoughts are on Jonathan Cunningham. I mean, because the company he came in with on official visits is Elijah Barnes, Riley Pettichon, and Madden Faramo. That's pretty good company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's interesting to me about Nansen and about Cunningham. He's one of those guys where you have to trust your evaluation.
Yes.
Because linebacker is not, while there is an Anthony Hill every so often, even Loyanga Lafau wasn't the bluest of blue chips. Maurice Blackwell wasn't. David, it's very rare that you get that bluest of blue chips at linebacker. So don't get me wrong. Those guys exist. Texas may be recruiting some of them in this very recruiting class. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I feel like it is one of the more instinctual positions out there. And because of that, I think when a coach sees a guy he likes, he needs to go on him because there are not that many out there. Hey, Jerry, I look at it, and right now, Texas starting to get into that flow of commitments, several things going on. It just feels like Texas is doing a good job of mixing those highly ranked players that everybody in the country wants, along with guys that they've kind of pegged as their type of guys. Yes. You know what I mean? They're the guys that they want on their team. And it's very interesting to me how they're recruiting both ways. They're not just over signing, super blue chips and then not doing anything else. I mean, it's kind of interesting. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think the player development piece is huge with Steve Sarkisian. So if they see a guy they like, and it may take a little longer at a position where they already have some young talent, I think that enables them to go on a guy like a Jonathan Cunningham. Sometimes they do that on the offensive line too, right? Where they can sit back and let that guy kind of stash and develop for a season. And that's not to say Jonathan Cunningham won't be 215 pounds a year from now and be ready to go, because he's a little bigger than Anthony Smith was at the same time. I really like what they do from evaluation standpoint, Bobby. I mean, seeing Jonathan Cunningham in person, the one thing you don't have to worry about with him, he's quick, he's reactive, and he can run, and he's got length. You just have to build the rest of it. And I want to add this. It's another DFW guy on I-20. And this is another winning program. Look, they got beat down a little bit by Duncanville in the state semifinal game last year, but Duncanville beat everybody except DeSoto. But North Crowley is one of those up-and-coming programs. Ray Gates, the head coach, is doing a great job there. They have 2026 John Turntine. They have an offensive lineman committed to Missouri and about 15 other Division I players. And Jonathan Cunningham is the leader of that defense. So, again, he's a leader of a talented program and a talented team, and he's along that I-20 area, which I always start that at Lancaster and carry it all the way to North Crowley and all stops in between. So this is another guy off I-20, and North Crowley arguably is a top 3 talented program along I-20 behind Duncanville and DeSoto at this point.
Interesting. Cedar Hill up there as well, probably.
Up there as well.
Look. The reality of it all is Texas continues to just add. Jonathan Cunningham, one of those guys. They're trying to get more in the DFW area, as you know. You and I both know a lot of guys that they're still going in up there. If you had to say one thing about this take about Jonathan Cunningham, what do you want people to remember about this commitment for Texas?
Instincts at the position, and a guy that the head coach, Ray Gates, who's a really good defensive mind, who just took that program to the state semifinals, could call his defense. So instincts and intellect, the ability to process, the ability to handle. If you can combine a guy with instincts and that ability, very similar to the same things that the Jasper staff said about Anthony Smith coming out of high school, very similar. If you have guys like that at linebacker who are instinctive and have all the long levers and everything, but you can put a lot on their plate and they can handle that. They can handle the calls. They have that intellect. Look, those are invaluable players. And the other thing with him is, I would say this, Jonathan Cunningham's a physical player. I think in a year from now, when he gets up to 215, 220 pounds, that physicality will shine through a little bit more now than he does as a wiry, instinctive linebacker. But again, it's the instincts. I underrated instincts at the linebacker position when I was younger in this business. No more in the last few years. It's as instinctive as any position outside of running back. If you don't see it and react to it and go chase the football in an instinctive manner, I don't think you're a good fit.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you're just a day late and a dollar short is what
Yep.
it amounts to. No matter how talented you are athletically, that's one of the reasons why they say that linebacker is that instinctive type position. All right, Jerry, that's going to do it for you and me. Rod Babers now is going to have a profile of Jonathan Cunningham, kind of looking at his strengths, weaknesses, things he needs to work on, and things that he's already bringing to campus. But for Jerry and I, and directly to one Jonathan Cunningham, hook 'em.
Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here to give you my personal evaluation of Jonathan Cunningham, the 6'2", maybe 6'3" linebacker out of Fort Worth, North Crowley. Listen, there's a lot to like about this game. I got a long list of notes here about this young man. First of all, he's pretty light for a linebacker, right? You talk about 6'3", so he's long range. He got great wingspan and 195 pounds. I mean, you could probably pack on 20, maybe even 25 pounds, and I think he would carry it really well. And you'll see here several highlights. He is a dynamic special teams player. And I think that adds to one of his elite traits as a linebacker, his pursuit speed and his closing speed. He's a heat-seeking missile. Once he acquires the target, I mean, he's a heat-seeking, and you can see it even on special teams at times too, whether it's on the coverage unit or whether he's blocking kicks. This is a young man that really has great closing speed and great pursuit speed to the football. That's the number one thing that kind of jumped off the page to me. But also his frame. Like I say, he's a long, slender young man. Let me look at him there. Looks like he can put on some weight, but like I said, once he acquires the target, as you can see there, on a beeline to close that gap. He's also really comfortable in space. I love actually the way he drops back in coverage. There's several highlights of him dropping back in coverage as a coverage linebacker. Considering his size, that's probably where his strength is early on. And I think he's going to be a little bit of a developmental project, just adding weight to him. And then a guy that, has to learn how to take on blocks, learn about the physicality of the game, learn about leverage. But once you can teach him some of those fundamentals of being a great front seven player, I mean, the upside is just tremendous. I call him a spread baby. Those are the kind of front seven guys who understand passing concepts, are comfortable in space. But his reach and his wingspan, every several highlights you'll see of him running down ball carriers and ball carriers, obviously trying to make a move, and his change direction, which for a linebacker is really impressive. It kicks in, but then they can't outrun his grasp because he's got some good speed, but his arm length and his wingspan, they really play a huge role in him making some of these plays. You can see guys that are just barely trying to make a move, and once he has got a beeline on you, they can't outrun his outstretched arms. And he makes a lot of plays like that. And I think this shows you that that frame of his is actually one of the more impressive things about him. Also, what I love about him, he's a cleanup guy. And what I mean by that is, as a linebacker, you can see him. He never quits on the play until he can run it down, and he wants to contribute. And at times, he can be the third guy that gets there. But even if it's the runner is still up and he's got two guys that are obviously hanging on to him, he's gonna come up there and clean up the play. That's why I call him the cleanup man. That could be his theme song, man, the cleanup man. He does a great job of that as a linebacker. Make sure there's no extra yardage there. He's trying to, once he makes contact, he's trying to make sure that the ball carrier stops there or the ball carrier is taken back a couple of yards. Love that about his game. That just shows you he's a guy that plays with some attitude. And also, something else that's really impressive as a special teams player, shows the football character. He's got several plays on his highlight reel, so he's proud of it, number one, but several plays on his highlight reel where he's making as a special teams player, whether it be on coverage or whether it be going to block kicks. That's a football character thing. And I think, Sark, they talk about looking for football character when they're identifying skill sets and they're identifying players they like. And obviously Jonathan Cunningham is showing a lot of that. I also think that, he's a bit of a project, but I think going forward, you look at the new age linebackers, you're looking at linebackers that need to be comfortable in coverage, linebackers that can run. He can run, so you may add some weight to it, but with that frame, 6'3", 195 already, you probably can add 20 pounds, and I don't think he'll miss a beat. So a little bit of a developmental project for him potentially, but man, the upside's tremendous with this young man. And one thing you also see that he the change of direction for linebackers, not something you people talk about a lot, but when you're going up against running backs who are, these guys are very agile, short area quickness. That's one of the things that stood out to me. There's several plays where you can see him change direction, change up his angle to the football, and do it seamlessly for a guy his size, 6'3", almost 200 pounds. He carries it really well. Probably plays a little high in terms of the pad level. That's something that's easily fixed. That's something that's easily fixed by just coaching him the fundamentals and learning about leverage. But there's no doubt, man, delivers a pop when he gets to the football. And as you can see there, you're not getting extra yardage after he decides that you are the target. There's no extra yardage in there. Once again, the cleanup, man. You can see him cleaning up the play. And so a lot to love about this young man's game. I mean, I think ultimately these are the kind of linebackers that Texas wants to start recruiting. Most linebackers these days coming out of high school, it's hard to get a linebacker that's already kind of ready-made for the college level because of the proliferation of the spread offense. So at the college level, there's a whole nother physicality level that they have to embark on. There's also the RPO game. Their experience at the high school level, but at the college level, even more emphasis on the RPO game, usually isolating those linebackers in coverage. So I think a lot of the linebackers you're looking at these days at the college level are developmental projects. That coaches are just looking for raw tools. They're looking for certain traits at linebacker, and then you can mold them. Like DeMarvion Overshown was obviously one of those ideal projects. I'm not saying he's a DeMarvion Overshown, but I do think he is a bit raw, but the upside, like I said, is unbelievable with this young man. So that's my personal eval on Jonathan Cunningham, North Crowley linebacker out of Fort Worth.